The movie begins with James and Petra cuddling on the bed. Before Petra left, she told James not to go back to sleep, but James did so anyway. And when he woke up, he realized that he was already late for class. He rushed to class and saw that he was already a minute late. Their philosophy teacher, Mr. Zimmett, let him in, and the class started. They first discussed the infinite monkey theorem, which states that if you let a monkey click randomly on a typewriter for an infinite amount of time, the monkey will eventually type out the complete works of William Shakespeare. The second discussion is the trolley problem, wherein a trolley is speeding uncontrollably towards 5 people tied to a track. A bystander can choose to save those 5 people by pulling the lever to change the course of the trolley, but in doing so, the bystander will have to sacrifice the one person that was tied to the other track. The scenario was then changed to one obese person standing near the tracks and 5 people tied to the tracks. To save the 5 people, the bystander would have to push the obese person in front of the trolley to derail it. Petra states that both choices were wrong, as they were murder either way. The third discussion was about the ignorant bliss paradox. In this scenario, a person is hanging from the highest tower and has called her 3 best friends to save her. Upon seeing the situation she was in, her 3 best friends decided not to help her out of fear of falling over themselves. The hanging person falls, opens her parachute, and lives. But the person might then regret testing her best friends, because then she would know that she wouldn't be able to count on them in a life-or-death situation. Then the question arises as to whether or not it would have been better if she had stayed ignorant. Since it was their last day as seniors, Mr. Zimmett decided to make the students envision a global cataclysm wherein they would have to use logic to find a way to survive. In the first session, they were in Prambanane, and there was an atomic apocalypse. There is a bunker nearby that can shelter them for a year, but the bunker's supplies can only fit 10 people, which means that only 10 out of 21 people will be allowed to get in, while the rest will be left outside to die in the radiation. Upon hearing this, Petra refused to join and was about to leave the class. But Mr. Zimmett wanted his top student to join, so he threatened to fail James, who was already mediocre in class. Not wanting her boyfriend to fail the class, Petra went back to her seat to cooperate. Zimmett then grabbed a box and made the students pull a random card. Zimmett made James pull a card first before he suddenly started coughing. He leaned against his desk as he coughed before he turned back around and made Petra pull a card before he started coughing violently once again. After that, he made everyone else pull a card without coughing anymore. The cards tell the students about their profession during the apocalypse, and those professions will determine whether they are useful enough to be allowed in the bunker. During the session, the students stated what profession they had, and when Toby stated that he was a poet, he was suddenly shot in the head by Zimmett. It was then shown that when Zimmett showed the students the bunker, he secretly grabbed a gun. Zimmett then explained that Toby, as a poet, is useless in terms of survival, and giving him a painless death was much better than letting the atomic cloud peel his skin off. The students didn't like what Zimmett did, but couldn't disagree with what he said. The students then started to decide who was going to get in and who wasn't. There were 9 students who were voted in. Petra, a structural engineer. James is an organic farmer, and Georgina is an orthopedic surgeon. Chips is a carpenter. Jack has a PhD in chemistry. Bonnie is a soldier. Andy is an electrician. Poppy, a psychotherapist. And Omosede, a U.S. senator. Zimmett was also voted in because he apparently is a wild card, and it is up to the students whether or not they want to vote him in to see what he can bring to the table. After the voting, the students wandered off for a while when they heard a gunshot. When they checked what happened, they saw that Zimmett had killed the students who were voted out. Zimmett reasoned out that the students asked him to just shoot them in the head instead of letting them suffer outside. but the remaining students were already wary of him and made a plan to get inside the bunker without Zimmit. When Zimmit realized this, he ran to the bunker and watched as he was locked out of the bunker. One night, Petra was wandering in the bunker while the others were sleeping when she saw Zimmit staring at her from outside the window. Zimmit showed her a paper that said that he was the only one who knew the exit code of the bunker. Petra called the others, and they all didn't believe Zimmit, thinking that he was only saying it so he could get in. So the students ignored Zimmit and stayed in the bunker for a whole year. By the time they realized that Zimmit was telling the truth, he was already dead. The students tried everything to get out of the bunker, but to no avail. Every attempt was futile. Their supplies began running out and they started getting desperate. One of them died of brain aneurysm, and because of extreme hunger, the remaining ones had no choice but to eat their own classmates. In the end, every single one of them died inside the bunker. After the first session, Zimmit revealed that he was actually a bunker builder, and he was the one who built the bunker where the students just died. They then decided to have another session. In the first session, they had to just stay in the bunker for a year to survive. But in the second session, not only do they have to survive, but they also have to reproduce to save humanity. They were on Mount Bromo, and their cards had additional details that changed the votes. Georgina, Andy, and Poppy, 3 students who were voted on in the first session, are now voted out and replaced by Cavey, Plum, and Nelson. Toby, the poet, was yet again killed in the second session, even before he could say anything about himself. When asked why, Zimmit explained that Toby's slot in the bunker was for him. And since Zimmit is still the wild card, the students who were voted in relented as they were afraid of making the same mistake they did during the first session. The students who were voted out, led by Georgina, demanded the truck keys from Zimmit and drove away, planning on outrunning the apocalypse. Meanwhile, the rest went into the bunker. James's additional detail was that he is an organic farmer who is gay. And one night, Petra caught him on the bed with Jack. The team had a meeting, and James didn't want to bed Petra because of his principles as a gay guy. So Petra ended up partnering with Zimmit. The pairs then tried to reproduce, but there were no pregnancies at all. Cavey, whose additional detail was that he's also a midwife, stated that the stress the females are receiving due to the atomic war was enough to stop the conception. So Zimmit suggested that females should have multiple partners every night to increase the possibility of pregnancy. Bonnie only wanted one partner and refused to let multiple men touch her, which angered Zimmit, who threatened everyone with a gun. This led to a fight between him and Jack, which Zimmit lost. Zimmit went to the exit and opened the bunker's gate, killing everyone. After the second session, James became suspicious of Zimmit's intentions and started questioning him. He took the box where the cards were and discovered that the box had secret compartments. It was then revealed that Zimmit intentionally made James an organic farmer who is gay and Petra a structural engineer who is also an electrical engineer. This was the reason why Zimmit was coughing when it was James and Petra's turn to pull a card, to give him enough time to open the compartments meant for James and Petra. James asked why Zimmit seemed to be holding a vendetta against a mediocre student like him, and Petra looked like she realized something. Zimmit explained that he thinks James is ill-prepared for the real world because of his privileges, but James didn't believe him and asked for another session. Zimmit agreed, but this time, he made James a florist. In the third session, the class went to an island where the bunker was located. Petra approached Zimmit and hugged him to comfort him. Then Petra asked everyone to trust her in choosing who gets to enter the bunker. Petra chose those who were deemed useless during the first and second sessions, including Georgina, whose additional detail was that she came into contact with the Ebola virus while on a humanitarian mission. Zimmit was furious because of this and also because James was picked but he wasn't. The chosen ones went to the bunker and Zimmit moved to pull out a gun to threaten them, but his gun was gone. It turns out that Petra had stolen the gun from him when she hugged him earlier, and when he opened the bunker to kill everyone during the second session, Bonnie watched him put in the exit code and memorized it. James had also grabbed a gun, which he used to threaten Zimmett. For the last slot, Petra picked Chips instead of herself. But Chips pretended that he was going to hand Petra the keys to the boat and pulled Petra into the bunker. The bunker closed, and Chips left the island along with the other students who weren't picked. Those who were picked stayed in the bunker for a year and lived inside as if there weren't an apocalypse happening outside. They had fun together inside the bunker, and James and Petra's love blossomed even more. The year was over, and they went out of the bunker. Suddenly, a crazed Zimmett showed up. Zimmett had found a cave near the bunker and stayed there for a year. Zimmett had only one bullet left and wanted to shoot James with it. But the others stood in front of James, forming a straight line. Holding Petra's hand, James triggered the unexploded nuclear bomb, killing everyone. After the third session, Chips was praised for sacrificing himself for Petra. But Chips explained that he did it for his own gain. When they left the island, they found another island to stay on. The other males in the group died one by one, leaving only Chips and the 6 females. Chips happily bragged about how he gets to have 6 girls to himself, 6 girls for the 6 days of the week, and the 7th day is his rest day. And since he was the only guy around, the girls wouldn't have any choice left but to try and reproduce with him. The sessions ended, and the students left. Petra was the last one to leave, but instead of leaving, she closed the door and had a private talk with Zimmett. Petra knew that Zimmett was intentionally trying to punish both her and James because of their relationship. It turns out that Petra and Zimmett had been having an affair. Zimmett hated James because he believed James didn't deserve Petra because James was not as smart as him. Petra stated that intelligence isn't what matters in a relationship. Petra firmly told Zimmett to leave James alone because she could never love him just like she loved James. Before Petra left, she kissed Zimmett for the last time, and Zimmett explained that in Greek, apocalypse means to uncover what you couldn't see before. Once Petra left, Zimmett went to his office and ate a snack. In a different scenario, Zimmett went to his office, pulled a gun out of his drawer, and a gunshot was heard. And in another scenario, he went to his office and merely closed his eyes. The last scene showed Petra opening her eyes with a smile on her face.